Hi, this is Vanessa again, and we're going to basically continue our series on preparing your agency for the economic downturn. The first video that we did was on the 2020 recession. If you haven't seen that video, I'd highly recommend you start there. In that video, we talked about how CFOs are preparing and the downward pressure that's being put on agencies. And we ended that with talking about how do you move from being scared about this downturn to figuring out how to not only survive but thrive in this downturn. So that brings us to our second video in this series, which is organizational agility. So the focus of this video is going to be on organizational agility. What is it and why does it matter? So let me back up a second before I jump right into that. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about, I want to apply a business model that's used in every other industry to our industry to just see what it tells us. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with Porter's 5 forces. It's really a model that identifies and analyzes 5 competitive forces that shape every industry. And it determines that industry's strengths and weaknesses. And really, it's a framework for determining the profitability potential of that industry. So let's apply Porter's 5 forces to our industry and see what it means. So start with number 1. Number 1 is threat of new entrants. Well, we know that there is pretty much zero barrier to entry in this industry. An account director can leave, take a piece of business with you, and pop up a new $1 million agency overnight. So there are tons of competition and new agencies popping up all the time. So number 2, threat of substitutes. This has gotten even worse with the rise of the internal agency because those CFOs are challenging the CMOs of those big brands and they're asking them, why can't you build this in-house? So much so that some of the biggest consultancies have even started divisions that will help brands build hybrid internal agencies. Okay, there's your substitutes. Number 3, bargaining power of buyers. So again, this has been happening. So the downward pressure on rates, this is not new. This has been happening for years, except that it just keeps happening. And again, those CFOs challenging the CMOs and the CMOs putting pressure, and then the agencies undercutting each other on rates has continued that downward pressure on rates. Number 4, bargaining power of suppliers. So not only are we getting pinched at the top, but also with unemployment at 3.5%, labor is more expensive than ever. Talking to recruiter friends, the only way they can get you new people is if they poach them or take them out of another agency and put them into your agency. Of course, that's really expensive. Okay, so we now have a low compensation to rate ratio in our organization because literally we are burning the candle at both ends. And then the last factor, which is really important, is called the rivalry among competitors. It's somewhat difficult to get this number because there's a lot of data on this and differing opinions, but we know that there are at least 30,000 marketing agencies in the United States, which means competition is very, very high. Right? And we've noticed that brands are hopping agencies more than they ever have before, right? You used to be able to make up for that really expensive pitch over the next 3 years. And now, if you don't make it up in the first year, it's probably lost for good. And unfortunately, the 2020 recession that we talked about in our prior video is probably only going to make all of this worse. Now, most industries do not have downward pressure in all 5 of Porter's 5 forces, but this industry does, okay? So the real question comes to us when we say, how are you going to solve this? Well, are you going to solve it by lowering prices? Probably not. Are you going to solve it by less expensive labor? Not in today's market. Are you going to solve it by better creative? Unlikely. You've probably hit the point of diminishing returns there. Your creative's probably already awesome because this industry prides itself on that. Are you going to solve this by selling more? Maybe, as long as it's profitable. Are you going to solve this by establishing a niche? Yes, if you can charge higher prices and not have to hire more expensive talent, then yes. But I would argue that your last sustainable competitive advantage is really organizational agility. So the question is, what is organizational agility? It is the ability of an organization to quickly change, adapt, and renew itself in a turbulent, ambiguous, and rapidly changing environment. Okay, that's a great definition, but what does it actually mean in practice? So I would say that organizational agility is made up of two factors: speed and knowledge. Okay, speed without knowledge gets you very far in the wrong direction, and knowledge with no speed gets you nowhere, or you get there too late, one or the other. Okay, so imagine I'm in a boat and I'm trying to sail to an island. If I go too fast, if I've got speed and no knowledge, then I've overshot the island. If I have knowledge and no speed, I've got no sails, and all of a sudden I'm stuck in the middle of the ocean. In neither situation did I actually get to the island. So for an agency, I would consider speed a well-deployed agency management solution aligned with industry best practices. Okay, with those two things, we can then increase throughput of work, basically get things done faster and more efficiently, with keeping quality, of course. Knowledge in this sense is now business intelligence. I've got to know what I'm doing well, what I'm not doing well, but what's my profitability of project types, service lines, departments. Am I over-servicing? Am I mis-scoping? Am I doing the right amount of change orders, right? If I have that knowledge, then I can basically apply that to my next set of business and make things better. Okay, again, we're tacking. Think of it that way. If I use the right combination of speed and knowledge as in my organization, then I can get there. If someone just tells me that I have an agency potential of $5 million, but they don't tell me any details of it, then I pretty much just walk home and feel bad about myself. However, when someone tells me what that $5 million is made up of and what operational issues I have, and so now I know what I can solve, I can now identify the operational issues that will give me the biggest financial ROI. I can align my leadership teams on those, and then I can start knocking them down one at a time. Okay. What is that going to do for us? Okay. What is organizational agility ultimately going to do for us? It's going to increase competitiveness, right? We can do more with less. It's going to increase profit, and we know that profit fuels opportunity. It's going to improve culture. We're not running everybody ragged. We're getting paid for all the work that we're doing. We are getting out of that chaotic environment. We're lowering turnover. People feel good about the work that they're doing, and we've increased retention, right? This is great. These are all good things. So how do we get there? We're going to talk about that. So that's what the remaining videos are going to focus on in this series. So video number 3 is going to be financial and operational model, 4 project management and agency profitability, 5 agency management software, and 6 business intelligence. Thanks again, and have a great day.